Hello, and thank you for joining us here on the Neutral Zone. I am Phil Milani, joined as always by my partner in crime, my
trusty
esteemed
sidekick.
colleague, my partner in crime. I flipped those two around there.
That was nice.
The bottom line is you're my everything. It's that Eric Delisle.
Thanks, Phil. We're a little flustered here. It's been a busy week.
It has been a busy week. The Broncos have signed 14 free agents. No, not quite that many, but we've been meeting some of the new free agents that have come in.
Yeah. Phil, we sat here a few weeks ago, last week maybe, and talked about the Broncos' potential free agent strategy and what we thought was going to happen. And George Payton had said they were going to be aggressive, but Phil, I don't know if anybody thought they were going to be this aggressive.
Yeah, this has been sort of an overhaul, especially on the offensive line. They've made some moves there. We'll get into that a little bit. And overall, I think we just want to talk about what does this say about where the Broncos think they are, what they tried to do, and why they're a better team right now than they were a week ago.
Absolutely. Yeah, they've taken some big swings here and like you said, a massive overhaul. I mean, you're talking about 20% of the roster already, and we haven't reached the draft. We haven't reached college free agency. We haven't reached, any of these free agents that come down the line. I mean, it's been impressive. Yeah,
typically there's like a first wave of free agents. That's like when all the big names come off the board, and then after that, there's a second wave where you go in and you try to fill out your roster and you're adding depth in certain areas. Maybe you're focused on special teams a little bit. That's what you do in that second wave. The Broncos really have just come right out of the gate and they just started getting after it.
Big wave. One giant wave.
Big wave. Maybe like kind of like a Hawaii type of situation.
No, it's possible.
You seen those surfers in there where they get inside the swell? I don't know what that was.
Sean and George in there?
Huh?
Sean and George are they're on the board.
Are they on the same board? One's like in the front and one's in the back?
No, I think maybe side by side.
Side by side.
Yeah.
Two boards in the same swell.
Yep.
Whoa.
It's impressive. That's how big crazy. The swell is.
Got it. Is it closing or not yet?
I don't know. No, it's kind of like you watch some of these competitions and you're like, man, that wave is close. Like they're never going to get out of there. And then boom, they pop out right at the end.
You've done that before or no?
No, I'm scared.
Yeah, I'd be scared to do that too. I've only been to Hawaii one time, and there's a lot of rip tides in Hawaii. You're just swimming out there in the ocean a little bit, not paying attention. Boom, like 20 feet away from the shore.
Yeah.
You're like, what just happened?
Wow. I, of course, have never been to Hawaii, Phil.
Yeah. Well, you're from the East Coast.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's less of a destination out there.
Yeah.
You got to fly very far.
And in North Carolina, you guys got some nice beaches.
That's true.
Why leave?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're from Colorado, there's no beaches here.
No, but you could go up to a nice little reservoir up in the mountains.
You could do a nice reservoir.
That's really
a nice lake.
Yeah.
A nice lake. Yeah, you could do that.
Go to Nebraska.
There's not many riptides in the lakes.
In the lakes.
Yeah, in the lakes. Not.
If there were, something's going on.
Yeah.
Something
happened. Yeah. And the water's really cold.
That's true.
Yeah.
But it's nice. Refreshing.
It is. So, but yeah, it's a little bit scary. I want to try surfing. I'm not that cool.
Yeah. Maybe boogie boarding.
I do some boogie boarding.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun.
Very fun.
Yeah. Still dangerous though.
Yeah.
One false move and
who knows what could happen.
Forget about it. Yeah.
Yep.
Have you ever seen people do those skin boards? They like throw it in the shallow water. I think they call it skin board. Skim? I don't know.
There you go.
Skim, maybe.
Yeah, skim boards. You're skimming the surface of the water.
Yeah, that makes sense. Skim.
Yeah. Skin board seems kind of scary.
Yeah, skim.
Yeah, skim.
You like throw it on the water and then you jump on top of it. That just seems like broken bone.
You drink skim milk or no?
No, whole milk.
Oh.
Yeah, actually, I drink half and half.
Disgusting.
Yeah. That's what I prefer. Yeah. I'm like.
Straight from the cow.
Exactly.
Yeah, unpasteurized.
Yes, straight from the source.
Yeah.
It's good for your bones.
Yeah.
It makes you grow up big and strong.
Like you.
Yeah, exactly.
I never had a glass of milk in my life. That's why I look the way I do.
Oh, got it. Eric, before we dive into this free agency a little bit, the neutral zone, we're missing somebody today.
That's true.
Ben Swanson, of course.
He's grinding.
He was too afraid to come over.
Yeah.
He said he forgot his flannel today.
It's kind of sad.
Couldn't make it over into the studio. he was a little bit overwhelmed by all the new guys.
Yeah. He
so
spilled some of his paint. I mean, it was
some paint. It was just sort of a mess.
Tough for him.
Yeah.
So he's not here today. He's still okay. He's not in New Orleans or anything.
No, because I just wanted to mention that because free agency, you thought maybe, okay.
Yeah, something happened.
He's sort of a cap casualty.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
He's making a lot.
Hey, the Broncos needed to bring Mike McGlinchey in.
Yeah, sorry,
Not
Swanson.
enough room for Swanson.
Yeah.
So
no, he's still here.
He's still here. He's just
You restructure or no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They try to move it into some sort of a bonus.
The dead cap.
Yeah.
I mean,
they shuffled it into some cash, upfront cash.
Oh, good for Ben.
It was good for him.
Yeah.
But in the long run, he's not going to make as much. So
he'll be okay.
But he's
with a salary that big, even if you cut it a little bit,
yeah,
he's still doing okay.
Like, you know how much a new ESOL costs?
He's with inflation.
Really expensive stuff. So clays.
Yeah.
This is just expensive stuff.
Yeah.
So. But we also wanted to mention that this is an interactive show. So maybe if Swanson wanted to call in or something, he could probably do that.
That would be kind of funny.
But for somebody just driving along, how do they get involved?
Well, Phil, they could call 707-NEUTRAL, leave a voicemail, or you could just type it out to neutralzoneshow@gmail.com. You could tweet at us on Twitter at Eric DeLallo with an A, at Phil Milani with a PH, both non-traditional spellings. Or, Phil, one of our favorite ways is you can go on the Broncos YouTube channel, the official YouTube page, find the podcast and leave a comment right there. And we'll read some of the best ones right here on the air.
We love the comments.
We do.
I wanted to start out with one from Jesus Chavez.
Okay.
Says that Oxy Phil joke was top tier lol.
That's pretty good.
Kind of poked fun at me, which is
fine.
part of the podcast.
Yeah, we enjoy.
This is what
we trade some barbs.
Yeah, we all make fun of each other.
Yeah, kind of like
a happy place.
Yeah, exactly.
Safe place.
Yeah,
we all make fun of each other.
Right, and then we leave these walls, and we're best friends.
Exactly. But that's when it gets really dangerous. When we're back in the office, the jabs,
they're
off camera,
they're
off
uncontrolled.
air. Oh man,
that's true. Actually,
yeah. If you think it's bad on here, just wait until. I'm just
wait till you hear what Ben Swanson says to Phil away from the cameras.
Just typing along and boom.
Yeah.
A blast.
You're just trying to work.
I'm just trying to work. Last week we talked about wristwatches.
Yes.
Hey, I wear a wristwatch. You don't.
Nope.
You have an Apple Watch that you wear sometimes.
Yes, rarely, but sometimes.
But you get upset because you don't close all your rings or something.
Yeah,
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah. No, don't worry about it.
A lot of rings.
Don't worry about it.
I thought we were talking about watches. You're talking about rings. I don't know what's going on.
Yep.
Confusing to me sometimes. Vicky says, I'm 61. It depends on the day if I wear a wristwatch, a smartwatch, or nothing. I'm flexible.
That's interesting.
Flexible. Yeah.
I think most people would have a
routine.
A routine.
Yeah.
I like that. Spontaneous.
Rocky Marquise. I don't wear a wristwatch. I often wish I did, but I never go buy one.
Rocky, just go get one.
Yeah. Darren Tadlock. Why do you need to wear a watch when you could just lay down and use your sundial? Your sundial. Let the sun tell you what's going on.
Who said that?
That was Darren Tadlock.
Darren
Tadlock.
It seems like he'd be a good host of the Neutral Zone. That's something we would say.
Yeah. Well, the sun should help you.
Yeah, it should.
You should.
I mean, many years people just relied on that.
How accurate do you think it is?
They're accurate, I think.
I think so. Justin Bounds. I wear a watch daily. Age 19. 19,
wow.
Younger listener.
The new
Thank
generation.
you, Justin. Yep, I wear a watch every day.
You think he's watching us on TikTok?
It's possible.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how that would happen, but
are we not on TikTok? I thought we were on TikTok. I don't know. I don't really know. Kendall Johnson. My Apple Watch face is Phil Milani.
Nice.
Thank you, Kendall. Thank you.
I
appreciate that. Nathan Kelsey. I don't wear a wristwatch. I just use my phone. I'm 37. 37.
True. That's what I do.
Use my phone. I'm 24 and I feel naked if I don't wear a watch. Apple Watches are the worst.
Ooh. Who is that?
That was from Garrett Ring.
Okay.
Garrett Ring. So some good.
No watch would ring.
Yeah. Garrett, no ring.
Garrett, no watch or ring.
No watch, ring. So some good watch stuff there.
Yeah, that's good.
Appreciate it.
Interactive.
Yeah, exactly. I had one other comment that I wanted to get to, and I've just lost it.
Oh, no.
Oh, here it is. This one's from Aiden4424. Aiden 4424. Eric and Phil, who do you think would win in a race, Montrell or KJ Hamler? Montrell Washington just had a birthday this week.
Oh, did he?
Yep.
Happy birthday. Shout out to him.
KJ Hamler.
Fast.
A couple of speedsters. Who would win in a race?
Ooh.
Of course, we saw Tyreek Hill. He put on some spandex and went off for a race. I think that was a 60-meter indoor race.
It was. He won.
Yeah.
Smoked. Wild.
Yeah. 60-meter indoor race.
That would be a little bit defeating, right? If you were doing this for a living and you were like, I'm really good, and then some guy who
football player
does
just
something else for a living just showed up and beat you.
That would be hard to swallow.
Right. That'd be tough. I don't know. That's tough.
Yeah, Montrell or KJ Hamler. That's an interesting. You know, they put Montrell back there as a punt returner.
I've seen it in a game from KJ, so I'll go with KJ.
He is very fast.
He's very fast. You think
because he takes off from the line, just flies down the field, and you just throw it up.
Yeah, that Panthers game
that happened a few times. Jacksonville, that happened.
Yeah,
I think Chargers maybe.
Yeah, you said Jacksonville. Yeah. He can go.
It doesn't matter where. Mile high air, fast.
Oh, yeah.
London fog, fast.
I think Montrell could do it. I just got to see it. You know.
Yeah.
Maybe
his college film shows that he can do it. So
Sanford.
Now, of course,
Samford.
Sanford, not
skimboard.
Yeah, exactly.
Samford with an
M.
Yeah.
There's just pure speed. And then there's also football speed.
You got a need for speed?
I don't know. Are we talking about with pads on?
Oh,
you know, that could be a helmet on. You know, that could affect how you do things.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I don't know. I think we'll say KJ for now.
Yeah, I think you give it to the vet.
We'll say KJ for now.
Give it to the vet.
Yeah. Of course, as he's working his way back through some various injuries, I don't know if that affects the speed or not.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
Montrell, he's ready to rock.
That's right.
So, yeah. All right. Well, thank you for all the YouTube comments. We really enjoy those. That's this is sort of what makes a show special.
Oh, really fun.
Is that we live for those comments.
We do.
So please
really
keep
nice
coming.
ones.
Eric, you're wearing a nice QZ today.
Thanks, Phil.
What does that N stand for?
Well, as we're recording this, Phil, the Northwestern Wildcats, your Northwestern Wildcats.
Cats guy.
They have not yet played in the NCAA tournament. By the time this is posted, maybe by the time a person like Tom Agnetti is watching on his big screen.
Our friend.
Yep. The Cats will have played, of course.
And what will happen?
I don't know.
You don't want to talk about it. We don't want
I have a feeling I'm going to be sad.
Let's not. We don't want to talk about it. We just want to let it happen.
Just trying to enjoy the moment.
Let what's supposed to happen. The earth will continue to revolve around the sun and just.
Yep. You nailed that one. Of course, they play the Broncos from Boise State. And so it's kind of a weird thing for me.
Oh, yeah,
Cats versus Broncos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you put your Broncos part of your
how do you put that aside?
Are you a Broncos guy or a Cats guy?
Yeah, it's tough because I'm both. And so what's going to happen?
You're not a cat. You're not a Cats guy, though.
I'm not a cat guy. I'm a Cats guy.
Cats guy.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens, Phil.
Yeah. It's the second time that they're in the tournament ever.
That's true.
In school history.
Great tradition.
Yeah. And
the Buffs, of course, as we record, are still alive in the NIT.
Yes, they beat Seton Hall this week. So
big win.
Yeah. NIT, this is you're getting extra practice time.
We'll get to the Nuggets later.
Yeah, we'll talk.
Maybe.
Oh, gosh.
All right. Should we do some free agency?
Let's get into free agency. Our first and only topic really is talking about free agency.
Important.
It's the most important here. The Broncos have made several moves, brought in a couple of offensive linemen, Mike McGlinchey for right tackle, Ben Powers. I think his full name's Bennett Powers.
Oh, that's cool.
Bennett Powers. In for left guard. Be a nice bolstering of the offensive line.
Yeah.
They brought in Zach Allen for the defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
What else have they done?
Samaje
Perine, running back, just a strong dude.
Yep. Chris Manhertz at tight end.
Manhertz, a nice pass. Or a run blocking tight end.
Yep.
Caught a couple touchdowns in his career, but mostly run blocking, physical guy.
Jarrett Stidham, backup quarterback. Is he ascending?
I think he could be ascending.
Yeah, it could be an ascending player.
He started the only 2 games of his career to finish up last season for the Raiders.
Played pretty well in a couple of them.
Pretty well.
Really against the Niners very well.
Ran around a little bit, threw a couple tubs. Good old Stidham got himself a tub.
It's true.
Yeah.
3 tubs, I think.
Yeah.
Against the Niners.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who else we got? Alex Singleton, of course, back. Big
Yep.
re-signing. So some other moves
PJ
here and there,
Locke.
but yep.
So well, I'm pretty sure that happened. PJ Locke. So yeah.
Hope so.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I think it happened. There's just been so many guys.
Yeah, a lot of
Eric,
guys. Some other moves there we'll discuss in further detail at some point. But
let's talk about the 2 offensive linemen coming in, Eric.
Yeah.
That was a priority. I think one, Russell Wilson was sacked 55 times last year.
Okay.
Tied for the most with Justin Fields.
Wow.
So that was a lot of times. And Russ missed a couple of games too. So
due to injury.
That's due to injury.
Kind of two different injuries, right?
Yeah.
There's a hamstring. There was a concussion.
Yeah. And of course, earlier in the year, he's dealing with some shoulder stuff. So protecting Russell Wilson is going to be key.
Sure.
So that's one thing. And then also getting that running game going, Eric.
Yeah.
Rushing attack, I think, was 21st in the league last year. So in order to get what Sean Payton wants to do, you got to get that running game going. And that really starts up front. What do you think about the couple moves they made there?
Yeah, they're tougher, Phil, which I think is important. I like toughness.
Us. This is a tough show.
Exactly. It is tough for me to do this.
Like, for example, if you hurt like your wrist or something, but you still got to do your hair.
Oh, man. I have to do the
Could you
brace.
imagine?
Maybe I get a little carpal tunnel. I'm typing too much.
Yeah.
Got to get a brace on. That's happened to me before.
You go down to the training room, you're like, okay, I need to comb my hair, but will my wrist get hurt more, or is it just a pain tolerance?
Yeah.
They said,
Give me a shot.
It's really not anything. And you're like, okay.
They're like, get out of here.
You're like, I'll tough it out.
I'll be okay.
I'll do it.
I think they're tougher along the line. You think of McGlinchey just a couple of years ago, top run blocking grade among PFF, if you like that sort of thing. I know you love advanced statistics. So he's tough. He's a mauler in the run game. Ben Powers, big dude. Last year, I think, gave up 1 sack, had 1 penalty, allowed 1 quarterback hit, also really good in the run game. And even more so than that, Phil, I think then you've got Chris Manhertz, who's not an offensive lineman per se, but he's a big guy, tight end that's going to come in and help you in the run game as well. And so I look at those 3 moves in, imagine you're playing in, 11 personnel or whatever, and you've got 5 offensive linemen in your tight end. Well, all of a sudden you've replaced or revamped half of that.
Yeah.
And then you think, okay, well, we really like a guy like Quinn Miners. We know what Garrett Bowles can do when he's healthy. We'll see. Lloyd Cushenberry obviously did not finish the season due to injury, but he's a guy who's still under contract. We'll see what happens there. But you've got some tough dudes now that in the run game, I think, can really set a tone. And we talk so much, Phil, about what is the Broncos' offensive identity? Do they have an identity? And when you think back to Sean Payton's New Orleans teams, especially late, it was that they were going to try to beat you up front. They're going to run the football. And I think based on these moves, you've got to think it's a possibility the Broncos are kind of looking to do the same thing here.
Yeah. I mean, I think that what sometimes can get lost is if you look at what New Orleans did, you're like, oh, Alvin Kamara, he's like a flashy running back. Drew Brees, these wideouts, you sort of pay attention to that kind of stuff. But the reason why all of that worked was because of the horses up front.
Yeah.
You like that, horses?
The Saints up front.
They went marching or no?
Here it would be the horses up front.
Horses up front. There it's
Saints
marching down the field.
Yep.
Sorry. I apologize. And so I think that, this was just something that I think everybody, fans you bump into, what are they doing with the offensive line?
That happened to you?
All the time. All the time.
Where's some places
line.
that this happened?
Name a place.
Like you're at the gym, you're putting up 225 for like the 14th time.
Yeah.
And you're like, you're like 14 more to go.
I'm comfortable. Yeah. And they start talking to me.
You're not even sweating.
Relaxed.
You're just holding it up there.
Our friend Jordan.
Only 10.
Yeah. What did you think about it? I wouldn't even posted that. I'd be like, please delete that.
Please don't tell anybody.
Yeah, don't tell anybody about that.
Yeah.
They just started, hey, what's going on with the offensive line? I'm like, hold on a second. I still going with just the one arm.
Yeah, you're looking at your phone.
Pull out my phone. I'm like, okay, they did the 2 guys.
You toss it up. You catch it with the other hand.
Yeah, switch. Because it gets tired. A little bit tired. But I do think that everybody is just like, look, they got to address the offensive line. And they went out and did that. And the other thing I'll say is sometimes in free agency, you can tend to overpay a little bit.
Yep.
That's what free agency is about, right? Sure. Guys who are switching teams, they're doing it for a reason. And they're looking for maybe a nice contract or something. But I would say that what sometimes can happen is you've got guys who've already played their best football elsewhere, and you overpay for a guy who's sort of on the downward trajectory of their career.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
We like ascending players.
We like ascending guys.
Yep.
Guys who are heading in the right direction and maybe just toward the tail end of their time with the previous team started to show those flashes.
Yep.
I think they did that with both of these guys. I mean, McGlinchey came in, he was a top 10 pick overall. Yep. And so you're expecting all this like magnificent play right out of the gate. But I would say that maybe his best year was last year, Eric, with the 49ers. Of course, he had a quad injury in 21, missed some time there. But last year he played really well, I think. And especially in that wide zone scheme there, I had a chance to talk to him. When he came in here, said, I think I can play in any kind of scheme, is what he said. But having some familiarity with that wide zone, he hopes that that'll help him pick up Sean's scheme, what he wants to do here with this Broncos team. He said, hopefully there's some terminology crossover. I'll be able to pick things up pretty quickly. But I do think that McGlinchey is a guy who I think his best football could be ahead of him. And I would say that's certainly true of Ben Powers, who really showed it last year. I mean, the guy was the PFF you mentioned, just really, really sharp. And I
don't think he missed a snap last year.
Did not miss a snap. I think he was the only Ravens player to not miss an offensive snap.
Well,
so that's what that's what you want from your left guard. You want a guy who's just going to get in there and work.
Yeah.
You know,
and we'll have to see. You know, we're talking about this as if Quinn's going to stay at right and Ben's going to play left. Nothing official yet, but we're that's kind of projection maybe.
If we want to project it, we would say get Bowles at left tackle.
Yeah, if you're playing a game tomorrow, you would say Bowles, Powers, Cushenberry, Miners, McGlinchey.
Yeah,
and obviously still room to make moves, but that's kind of what you would expect at this point.
That's what we're projecting.
Yeah,
the neutral zone can go ahead and officially project the offensive line for the Broncos. Yeah,
there's enough data.
There's enough data, enough reporting.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, you're right. McGlinchey, you just look at him and you can tell why he's so good in the run game because he's so long, he's big. He can get out there, get a hand on somebody.
He's big and lean, I would say. He doesn't look like he's got like a ton of weight, but he's huge.
Yeah. But he'll crush you in a run game.
Yeah. Like he's heavy, but he doesn't look like he's got a lot of weight. You know what I mean?
No, he looks athletic for what is he, like 6'7", 6'8"? I mean, he's a big guy.
6'8", I believe.
Big guy. And so
much bigger than I am.
To have that athleticism. Yeah, you normally are looking down at people, you're looking up. You kind of look down on people in a lot of ways, but I like a more positive looking up at him.
Looking up at him.
So yeah, he's a big guy. Ben Powers, it's size, it's toughness. You know, you talk about not missing a snap. That means you got to play through some stuff. You know,
correct.
You talk about the difference between being hurt and injured. All these guys are dealing with something at some point, and so to not miss a snap speaks to your toughness. Offensive line was somewhere that it's not glamorous. You're not adding a star wide receiver or a star pass rusher or whatever, but this is how you make good football teams, is by building up front and making sure that the offensive line is not an issue. And the Broncos still got work to do. And let's be clear here with all these, Phil, one thing to win the offseason and win free agency or win the draft or whatever, you got to show it. And I think these guys understand it, but you now have a lot more talent at that group. And I'm excited to see what they look like when they get on the field.
I think one thing that we all learned last season, I mean, I already knew this, but I think a lot of other people learned this. You don't want to get too hyped up in the offseason.
Yeah.
I think that happened a little bit last year. You get too excited. You're a little too excited. Sean Payton's come in here and he's sort of established expectations like, hey, he said it when he was introduced. Hopefully we won today. Hopefully we win the draft. Hopefully we win these moments. But really, it's all about winning football games.
Yep.
And so you don't want to get too ahead of yourself here talking about these moves and what it could mean and stuff like that. But we knew that they needed to address offensive line, and they went out and did it.
Yes, they did.
I think that there's reason to say, hey, this was an obvious area that they had to get after it.
And I do, we don't like to talk too much about the money on here, obviously, but I think you look at the McGlinchey deal compared to Orlando Brown going to the Bengals, Juwan Taylor going to the Chiefs, and I think you feel good about how the Broncos were able to get a really good player based on the salary that they gave.
Yeah, they're making this work. They have a. I think that the other thing that Sean Payton's has said is like, look, we got to make some changes around here. And so they got to make all the money work if you want to make all these changes. So they've done a nice job with that. Eric, talking about ascending players, I think another guy who fits into that category, he definitely fits in this category of ascending player, Zach Allen along the defensive line. The Broncos, Draymond Jones, drafted here in the 3rd round, played 4 years, now heading to Seattle. And the Broncos went out and got Zach Allen from the Cardinals, a guy who's familiar with what Vance Joseph likes to do, coming in here, and he's played his best football as of late. Yeah. And certainly feels like he's the type of player who has some room to play some better football too. Oh, absolutely. Here's what I like when you sign a free agent is a guy that, if you have 3 mediocre seasons and then you break out for one, I'm a little wary of those guys, right? Because it could be an aberration. I like when you see a guy year to year to year improve. Because the other thing I don't love is when a guy just, plays well, but there's no improvement there, or you don't see the growth or the realized potential. What I like is when you see year to year to year improvement, consistent improvement that shows this is not a fluke. This is not an aberration. This is a result of becoming better as a football player, of hard work, of growth, of understanding the game, all those sorts of things. And with Zach Allen, you look at a bunch of different categories statistically, and it's not like he's bouncing around where he was good in 2020 and then not as good in 2021 and then rebounded in 2022. The sack totals have gone up every single year. You talk about quarterback hits, pressures, tackles for loss, several of those categories, every year it's gone up, tackles. And so to me, that shows a guy that is realizing his potential, is capitalizing on opportunities, still has room to get better, as you mentioned, Phil. But I think one of the tough things with Draymond Jones, and obviously the Broncos thought highly of him. George Payton talked about him as a core player, wanted, I think at least at a time, to get something done. With Draymond Jones, you saw the same sack totals every year, and you talked about, hey, here's what the potential for Draymond Jones is. And for whatever reason, whether it's injuries or guys around him or trades, it never happened, right? Yes. You were around that 5.5 to 6.5 sacks every year, and it didn't, that's really good production from an interior defensive lineman, don't get me wrong. But you kept waiting for, especially this year, you're at 5.5 sacks midway through the year, and you're thinking, okay, this is a time we're going to get to 10. We're going to break out here, and it just doesn't happen. And so, to me, when you're deciding, and who knows all the details that go into it or what each side wanted, but when you look at Zach Allen and you say, okay, this is a guy that's going in the right direction, and he's consistently building up and taking strides, and you're seeing a progression, that to me is a good sign. And in my mind, what would tip the scales. So, and then you look at the advanced stats and you see, okay, from a sack plus hit rate, Zach Allen has he's 5th in that category among interior defensive linemen. Yep. Draymond Jones is 33rd. So you can look at, Draymond Jones might have the bigger raw sack total last year, but I still think Zach Allen in the big picture is probably the right move for Denver. Yeah. I was going to say ascending players is something you're looking for. And then the other thing I always think about with free agency is that nobody knows that player better than the team he was just on. And they've decided to, for whatever reason, it didn't work out and the player's moving on to the next spot. Well, nobody knows that player better than the team he was just on. And for the Broncos, VJ was just there with him. Yeah. And so he knows exactly what you're getting with Zach Allen. That's true. And so, what it's like in the meeting room, what he's like in the weight room, how he likes to work, what his mindset is like, is this guy come in with a winning attitude, or is he going to be causing problems in the locker room? All that kind of stuff. Nobody knows it better than the team that you play for. And so for Vance to have been in there working side by side with him, I think that's an encouraging sign that they were like, look, we want this guy and let's go get him. And so the Broncos did that.
Yeah, I mean, if there were an issue with Zach Allen or there were questions about him and Vance Joseph came here, he could have been the first person to speak up and say, not this guy.
We can't do this guy.
Not this guy. This is not the right guy for what we're trying to build. Instead, he gets here and I would assume says at least,
hey, we want this guy.
Yeah, if it's not pounding the table for him, it's at least like, I have no problem with this guy.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like you said, he's got intimate knowledge of working with this guy.
Yeah.
I think a really big addition, and now you're talking about DJ Jones and Zach Allen working together. That's all of a sudden a revamped. You obviously need somebody else there. The third spot, is it a young guy? Do you sign another veteran? Do you draft somebody? Those are questions to answer, but you've now got two prominent players there at defensive line. And what I think was kind of a question mark at times over the last few years, I think you're getting closer to being a strength. I don't know if you're there yet, but you talk about winning in the trenches on the offensive line, same way on the defensive side of the football. You got to be tough up front. You got to be stout. Think about Josh Jacobs running over this team the last few years with the Raiders.
Oh,
I mean, you've got to find a way to stop that, and it starts up front.
Yeah. And I think that was another area it
was a priority.
An area of
that they prioritized.
That was nice.
Yep.
I know how to talk. Okay. I know this.
You're a podcast host. Of course you do.
This is what I do for a living here. So I think that they've added to that area. What do you think about a guy who's heading into his fifth season, Eric, with regard to the position he plays? It feels like that's when defensive linemen start to really hit a groove too. Like that's a position that rarely you see rookies come in and have a ton of success right there. There's so much to learn. First of all, physically, you got to get stronger to be able to play at this level. And then also, everything's happening so fast in there. I feel like it takes a couple of years to kind of learn what you're doing. Then, boom, you can start to see some of that success.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, this guy is a tough guy again. I think that toughness is important. Plays well, improving, ascending, whatever we want to call it. But I think in terms of what you're talking about in the comfort, it's not just that, but also he hasn't played on great football teams all the time.
That's true. J.J. Watt was there, sort of took him under his wing, but overall not great.
Some success.
Yeah.
But obviously, like the Cardinals fired their coach last year and struggled. And so you'd think, hey, if this guy's in a position, we talk about this with this defense a lot, they're in a position with a lead or that, they're playing just better football, more competitive, you'd think the numbers would go up, right? Like here's more pass rush situations. And so I think about that too, in terms of, hey, how are we evaluating this guy? What is this guy capable of? Well, if he's only got X number of pass rush situations or chances or opportunities because the Cardinals weren't in these games, well, now, hopefully, knock on wood, got a lot of work to do, but the offense is better. Improved at least. Maybe you get more opportunities, and that's part of what could help the sack total go up too.
Yeah, totally. So I think those are the three big guys. The Broncos, they went out and they addressed this situation. A couple of other guys we could touch on here. Jarrett Stidham coming in at backup quarterback for the Broncos here. A guy who hasn't played a ton of football in the NFL. Spent his first 2 years in New England. Spent last year with the Raiders. Sort of in that same system, the Josh McDaniels, what he likes to do. Now he's coming over and he's going to back up Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Stidham, some intriguing potential maybe. And I think what stands out to me is just this is the guy that Sean Payton and George Payton picked. And so you're assuming that an offensive guru like Sean Payton is probably going to be very particular about who he picks to be that backup quarterback. And so that, I kind of will reserve judgment on that until I see it on the field, until we see Stidham in a preseason game. But it is interesting because there are a lot of options out there in terms of vets, younger guys. Do you draft a guy? I'm not saying that drafting a guy, I'd be surprised now if it were on day 2 or even early in day 3, but who knows? Maybe they still add a third guy. But it's just interesting based on how many options there were. And it was a very crowded, and still I think there's some good options out there, very crowded reserve quarterback market. The fact that they early on said, this is the guy who we want, I think it says something. I don't know what it says, but I think it says something.
It definitely says something. Because you had a lot of guys out there, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Marcus Mariota, Andy Dalton, a lot of guys that
Taylor
were
Heineke, Gardner Minshew.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of guys.
There were a lot of options. Teddy Bridgewater. Yeah, exactly. Guys who've worked with Sean Payton in the past.
Yep.
And instead of like saying, hey, we'll address that in the second wave, or like, we'll see how things, shake out around the league. They were like, they made this decision pretty fast. I mean, he was here with the first wave of guys.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Especially when you think that, if my memory is correct, I think last year, Josh Johnson, it wasn't like, it happened relatively quickly, but it wasn't like the very first thing they did. And so you're right. The fact that they could have waited it out and just said, hey, let's see how things settle. We'll take a team-friendly deal based on one of these 10 guys who's left. Instead, they prioritized.
Yeah, it's sort of interesting because he is a guy who, like I mentioned, hasn't played a ton of football, but played pretty well those final 2 games last year against the Chiefs and against the 49ers.
Yep.
49ers, of course, had the best defense in the league last year.
Yep.
And he went out there, played pretty well.
Really well.
He's kind of an interesting guy in the sense that, like, he's not a veteran where, hey, if Russ goes down and you just need a guy for a game or two, you could just plug him in there. This is a smart player who's just going to come in, and that's sort of what his role is. He's kind of a guy who is got this untapped potential, sort of, and you're sort of curious to see, okay, how good can this guy be in this league? Had a back thing a few years ago, but it's sort of more of an interesting prospect versus a guy like Teddy Bridgewater coming in, where you're just like, this is what Teddy is. We know what we're getting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. High upside, probably.
Yeah, exactly. And then Samaje Perine is the other guy we wanted to touch on here. A strong running back, Eric, a guy who last year, he's stiff-arming guys. He's like that bowling ball kind of guy, bouncing off defenders, good around the end zone, just a hard-nosed type of running back coming in here. And just your thoughts on the addition of him, and then just sort of where the Broncos stand at running back.
Yeah, I mean, I like the addition a lot, actually. He's always been a guy that I've looked at and been like, man, he runs hard. And I think his ability to do 3 different things in the quote-unquote run game, which is run the football, catch the ball out of the backfield, and pass protect. Those 3 things are what you need from your running back. We've seen times here in the last few years where the Broncos have had guys that cannot do all 3, and it limits you. The fact that Perine can do everything is a really good sign. He could be, I think, one of the guys that is like an underrated addition now that ends up paying dividends later. And really, Javonte Williams, based on what George Payton said, they expect him to be ready. They think he'll be ready for week 1. And either way, if Javonte is ready and you need to, balance the carries a little bit as he gets going, Perine's a great option. If Javonte is full bore and you just need a guy to come in every now and then who's fresh, hey, it's the 3rd quarter, it's the 4th quarter, defenses are getting a little tired. Now you bring in a fresh Samaje Perine and he runs over you, he stiff arms you. Or you talk about the fact maybe there's an option where Javonte isn't quite ready. Well, Perine's a guy that, can handle the load. I think a lot of Bengals fans thought he played better than Joe Mixon at times. Obviously, Mixon there featured back there. So, I like this signing a lot. We'll see still. You see Chase Edmonds leaving, Marlon Mack's a free agent.
Latavius
Murray, a free agent. They're still going to have to do something there because that's obviously the running back room. You need a lot of guys. But now you have options, I think, in that you could wait a little bit if you want, add a vet. You can go. I think you could go into the draft thinking maybe we want a guy that can we find a change of pace backer, a fast guy that can be a Kamara type guy. And then if you get out of the draft and you don't get one for whatever reason, well, now you can supplement through free agency. But I just think, again, prioritizing this, and there were some guys other guys in the running back market that were interesting options, like a Miles Sanders, a Jamal Williams. I think this was a good, I don't want to say value because
responsible decision.
Yeah, sure. A responsible decision where you got a really good player, but also you're not setting the market. And so I like this. And I think there's going to be, again, toughness. This team, I think too often last year, we saw issues with discipline and accountability, toughness. And then the last couple of weeks, we saw that change, and the Broncos took on this tougher, more disciplined attitude, and it paid dividends. You played really well in Kansas City. You beat the Chargers at home to finish the year. Well, now you're getting a bunch of guys on the defensive line, on the offensive line, at running back, at tight end that all fit that same mold. And let's see if we can keep it going here.
Yeah. I mean, P. Ryan, a guy, I'm not going to lie, I didn't know too much about it. I just knew, like, from watching Bengals games, I knew he'd been in the league for a little bit. But I highly recommend people turn on the highlights on this guy. He makes plays. I think he caught 4 touchdowns out of the backfield last year.
Career high 6 touchdowns last year.
He could slip out of there and catch it. And then, when he's out in open space, that's the kind of guy that a cornerback does not want to tackle. You know what I mean? He's stiff arming guys. And one quick story, I just talked to P. Ryan. Okay, he's in the building here. And I had to ask him, because if you Google his name, one of the things that pops up is the fact that he picked up this car. And so I had to ask him, I was like, what are you talking about here? A woman is trying to change her tire, does not have a car jack. Okay, Eric? He comes up and just lifts up part of the car. She changes the tire while he's holding it, finishes up, he puts the car back down.
Wow.
Just a car, Eric.
Like a giant Ford Explorer or something?
He says it's a smart car, but I think he was trying to downplay it because...
that guy's ripped.
If you ask a guy, hey, did you pick up a car? You don't want to be like, yeah, I did.
Yeah, you bet I did.
Bro.
You didn't?
Yeah, exactly.
You never done that?
I've never done that. But he tried to downplay it a little. He's like, hey, it was a smart car. It's not that big a deal. But the bottom line is that he picked up a car while a tire was being changed.
Well, here's something else I think people will like. Maybe even more than the car.
More?
More, possibly.
Fine. What is it?
Knock on wood here. He has not fumbled in 5 years.
Oh, my word. Who has had a fumble problem
I'm just saying that if you're a Broncos fan and you're a little bit worried, I mean, even Javonte Williams, I think
last year,
he'd tell you could probably work on some ball security. According to my very brief research, he fumbled twice as a rookie. None since then.
Yeah. You like that.
You like that.
Broncos got some Oklahoma guys.
They do.
Our old friend George
Stoya leaves. They bring in.
Yeah.
Wow. You got a lot of, guys. Delarian Turner-Yell, right? Nick Bonito.
Yeah.
Samaje Perine.
Boomer Sooner out
Ben
here.
Powers.
Yeah.
Anybody else? I'm probably missing like a really obvious one.
No, I think that's
a lot. 4 guys from a college.
Yeah.
Who, we'll see what happens. But Delarian Turner-Yell is probably like the one guy that like might have to compete for a roster spot. You're going to have a lot of Sooners on the 53.
Boomer Sooner.
Okay.
Boomer Sooner. I would like to note that when I was in college, CU beat, I think it was number 3 Oklahoma at the time.
Yeah, 1901. It was a big game.
It was a huge game.
Big game.
So that's our look at free
forward
agency.
pass had not yet been invented.
One last little thing I'll say here is that talking to these guys, they've all brought up, I came here because of Sean Payton.
Yep.
And also because the tradition, the history here, and also ownership.
Yep.
They've all brought up ownership, Sean Payton, hey, this is a place that you want to come play football.
And
which is interesting.
We've talked about that Sean Payton was the biggest recruiting tool. We talked about, I think we talked briefly about that NFLPA survey and that the players were really complimentary of ownership.
Yeah.
I mean, those are reasons to play here. And talk about one thing on ownership, they can guarantee money. And you look at how much the Broncos have spent and gone big here. The way the NFL works to provide guarantee money, you got to put it in escrow.
Yep.
And so
they can do that.
When you have an ownership group that is committed to winning, the way that the Walton Penner family ownership group is, you still got to go out there and prove it on the field, but any little edge helps in this game, and their commitment to winning is currently helping this team.
Yeah. Yeah.
So hopefully that doesn't go unnoticed by fans here. You might be wondering, why are the Broncos getting this guy, or, how are they doing all this? Players care about the guarantees. And so the fact that they're able to do that is a big deal.
Yeah. And it just stood out to me talking to them. They've all brought this up. And so you're like, okay.
Yeah. The Trent, 1 or 2, maybe you're like, huh.
Yeah. No, it's all of them.
All 45? Trent.
All 45 guys.
Yeah.
Eric, it's time for shout outs.
I love it.
Anybody you want to shout out right now?
We'll shout out Liz Gerald's.
Of course.
Yep.
The community department had a little outing this week.
Community meetings. Yeah. League community meetings. Big deal.
How do you guys community? What do you do to community?
Exactly.
We do some nice community.
Yep. Very important.
Yeah. They say, hey, does your guys' podcast shout out what you guys do? If not,
why not?
What's wrong?
Yeah.
You know, that's sort of part of the deal. I will say, I'll still shout out Nikola Jokic.
His defense?
Eric, the Broncos, gosh. The Nuggets have lost 4 games in a row.
Ugh.
As we're recording this, they play the Pistons later on. Hopefully they get the dub, get back on track. Some people are saying, what's the matter with Jokic? What's going on? No, he's continuing to play at an MVP level, Eric. It's just that for whatever reason,
a little rough patch right now.
A little rough patch.
We hope they get it together.
A few more weeks to go before the playoffs. A few more weeks to go before the playoffs. This is the time to have the rough patch.
Yep, that's true.
Later.
Not in the playoffs.
Not later. So. Let's get it back on track. But
absolutely,
I will shout out Nicole. Anybody else? Your Cats, maybe. Just say, whatever happens here, great season.
Great, that's true. Season. Yeah, whatever happens here. Second NCAA tournament appearance.
Have some perspective
13th in the Big Ten. Finished second. Good job.
And look, like if they weren't in this position, you wouldn't have been wearing that QZ.
That's
today.
True. That's really true.
You know what I mean?
I would have burned it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I know there's a lot of cats in town getting all geared up.
I think a big part of our listenership.
Yeah, the cats all get together. Yeah. So go Cats.
Absolutely.
Go Cats. All right. Anything else, Eric?
I don't think so.
Okay. What are we going to be doing next week?
Who knows?
Who knows? Second wave.
We'll figure it out.
Whatever. We'll be back. Maybe A. Swanson.
The wave's closing.
Maybe, shoot right through the end of that thing. Yeah. All right. That's going to do it for us. For Eric Dalal, I am Phil Milani. You've been listening to
The Neutral Zone.